Chapter 5. Being on the lam was a whole lot of fun. For about 5 minutes. Every time my heart beat, I could feel the blood pushing hot and hard on the inside of my sting spots and the bite on my hand. But I couldn't let that slow me down. I had to get out of this neighborhood as quick as I could. I knew a nervous looking, stung up kid with blood dripping from a fresh bite that carried an old raggedy suitcase. Didn't look like he belonged around here. The only hope I had was the north side of the library. If I got there, maybe Miss Hill would be able to help me. Maybe she'd understand and would be able to tell me what to do. And for now, I could just sneak into the library's basement to sleep. It was a lot later than I'd ever been up before, and I was kind of scared of the cops catching me. I had to be real careful, even if I was in the middle of the night, even if I was crouching down, sneaking along the street like Pretty Boy Floyd. At the library, I walked past a row of giant Christmas trees that were planted on the side of the building. These were this these or there was a door on the side and the light burning above it, so I kept walking in the shadows made by the big trees. When I got to the back windows, I almost busted out crying. Someone had gone and put big metal bars on those windows. Even though I knew it was useless, I tried tugging at the bars, but they were the real McCoy. They were solid steel. So I headed back to the Christmas trees. They were low enough to the ground that no one could see me unless they were really looking. So I opened my suitcase. Most folks don't have enough sense to carry a blanket around with them. But you never know when you might be sleeping under a Christmas tree at the library, so I kept mine handy. I untied the strange knots that the Amoses had put in my twine and opened up the suitcase. I could tell right away that some they had been fumbling through my things. First off, whenever I put my blanket in, I always fold it so that it stops all the other things from banging up against each other. But those doggone Amoses just stuffed it in without paying no mind to what was smashing against. I lifted the blanket out and saw that everything else was still there. You might be able to say that the Amoses were some mean old nosy folks, but you couldn't call them thieves. I picked up the old tobacco bag that I kept my rocks in, and I could tell by the way the drawstring was pulled up. The Amoses had been poking through those, too. I jiggled it up and down in my hand a couple times and felt like none of the rocks was missing, but I opened it to count them anyways. None of them was gone. Next, I pulled Mamma's picture out of the envelope. I kept it in and held it up to the light to the library side door to shine on it. I looked like the Amoses hadn't heard it. This was the only picture of Mamma in the world. Running across the top was a sign that was writ on a long, skinny flag. It said, "Boys and girls, follow the gentle light to Miss B. Gotten Moon Park." Underneath the sign, between the two big wagon wheels, was Mamma. She was about as old as I am now and was looking down and frowning. I can't understand why she was looking so unhappy. This park looked like it was kind of a place where you could have a lot of fun. In the picture, Mamma was sitting on a real live little midget horse. She looked tired and dragged out like those big work horses do, but it had a teeny tiny body with a big sag where most of the horses have a straight back. Mamma was sitting right in the middle of the horse's back, riding from him side saddle, except there wasn't any saddle. I guess you have to say she was riding him side sag, and she had two 6-shooter pistols in her hands. The way her face looked, you could tell she wished she would have emptied them on somebody, and I know who that somebody was. Mama told me it was her father and my granddad. He'd gone and ruined everybody's fun that day by getting in a big fight with my mother about the gigantic white 25-gallon Texas cowboy hat that she was wearing. Mama used to tell me, that hard-headed man insisted, mind you, that I wear this horrible hat. The hat was almost as big as Mama, and you could see it was fake because of the tall as it was. No real cowboy would have ever worn it without getting knocked off his head every time he rode under a tree or some telegraph wires. Mama told me that the man used to drag that midget horse all through the neighborhood with the camera, and if your mama or daddy signed a piece of paper, he was some pictures. He'd take some pictures of you and then come back in a couple weeks, and your mama could buy them. Mama wasn't looking like she had rocks in her wasn't looking like she had rocks in her jaw because that hat was so fake. The real cowboy would have laughed you right out of town for wearing it. She was mad because the hat was so dirty. When she used to tell me about it, her eyes would get all big and burny, like the whole thing happened the day before yesterday, instead of all those things years ago. She started moving around our apartment real quick, picking things up and putting them back in the exact same spot. Filth, she'd say about that hat. Absolute filth. Why, the thing was positively alive with germs. Who knows what type of people had worn it? I'd say, I don't know, Mama. She'd say, who knows how many years it had been worn by? Who knows how many sweaty little heads? I'd say, I don't know, Mama. She'd say, the entire band on the inside was black, and I'm sure it was crawling with ringworms, lice, and tetters. I'd say, yes, Mama. She'd say, and that horrible little photographer didn't care. Do you imagine that it ever occurred to him that to wash it? I'd say, no, Mama. She'd say, of course not. It was meant less to him than the horse that he mistreated so. I'd say, yes, Mama. Then she'd say, your grandfather insisted to this day. I cannot understand why, but he insisted. Insisted. I'd say, yes, Mama. We had that conversation a lot of times. Me and Mama having the same conversation lots of times is one thing, main things I can remember about her now. Maybe that's because when she'd tell me some of these things, she used to squeeze my arms and look right hard into my face to make sure I was listening. But maybe I remember them because those arm squeezing, face looking times were the only times that things slowed down a little bit when Mama was around. Everything moved very, very fast when Mama was near. She was like a tornado, never resting, always looking around, never standing still. The only time stuff didn't blow around was when she was near, was when she would squeeze my arms and tell me things over and over and over and over. She had four favorite things to tell me. One of them was about the picture, and the other was about my name. She'd say, Bud is your name, and don't ever let anyone say anything outside of that either. She'd tell me, especially, don't ever let anyone call you Buddy. I may have had problems, but being stupid isn't one of them. I would have added the dy onto the end of my name if I intended to it for it to be there. I knew that what I was doing. Buddy is a dog's name, or a name that somebody's going to use if they're going to be false friends to you. Your name is Bud, period. I'd say, okay, Mama. She'd say every single time, and do you know what Bud is? I'd always say, yes, Mama, but it was like she didn't hear me. She'd tell me anyways. A bud is a flower to be, a flower in waiting, waiting for just the right warmth to care to open up. It's a little first love waiting to unfold to see by the world, and that's you. I'd say, yes, Mama. I know she didn't mean anything by naming me after a flower, but it sure is not something I want to tell anybody about. Any Another thing she'd tell me was, "Don't you worry, Bud. As soon as you get to be a young man, I have a lot of things I'll explain to you." That didn't make me calm down at all. Bud Caldwell's rules. The things to have a funner life and making a better liar out of yourself. Number 83. Rules and things number 83. If adult tells you not to worry and you weren't worried before, you better hurry up and start cuz you're going to be already running late. She'd tell me, these things I'm going to explain to you later will be great help to you. Then Mama would look hard in my face and grab hold of my arms real tight and say, and Bud, I want you to always remember, no matter how bad things look to you, no matter how dark the night is, no one, when one door closes, don't worry because another door opens. And I'd say, what, it opens all by itself? She'd say, yes, it seems to. And that was it. Another door opens. That was the thing that was supposed to have helped me. I should have known that I was in for a lot of trouble. It's funny how now that I'm 10 years old and just about a man, I can see Mama was so wrong. She was wrong because she probably could have told me the things she thought I was too young to hear. Now, because that she's gone, I'll never know what they were. Even if I was too young back then, I could have memorized them and used them when I did need help, like right now. She was so also wrong when she thought I'd understand the nonsense about doors closing and opening all by themselves. Back then, it really scared me because I couldn't see what one door closing and another one opening unless there was a ghost involved. All her talk made me just jumping or jamming up a chair against my closed door at night. But now, what am I? I'm almost grown and I see Mama wasn't talking about doors opening to let ghosts into your bedroom. She meant doors like the door of a home closing, leading to the door of the at the Amos's, opening the door to the shed, opening and leading me into sleeping under a tree and getting ready to open the next door. I checked out the other things in my suitcase, and they seemed okay. I felt a lot better. Right now, it's too tired to think anymore. I closed my suitcase, put my knots back in the twine, crawled under the Christmas tree, and wrapped myself in my blanket. I'd have to wake up early if I want to get to the mission in time for breakfast. If you were 1 minute late, they wouldn't let you in for food.